Good morning, Carroll County. This is Brian DiLeonardo, your state's attorney, with this week's State's Attorney's Report. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and our office has done a number of measures to really try to get out and bring awareness, but more than even just awareness, looking for opportunities to really make a tangible difference and support. And I'm really excited with what we have going on right now because I've been a long believer that, government alone is never going to stop anything, that we need to have great cooperation with us and the community. And in this particular instance, a great partnership with the business community. So first of all, I'm going to introduce this morning who's with us is our Senior Assistant State's Attorney, our Domestic Violence Prosecutor, Brenda Harkavy. So good morning, Brenda.
Good morning, Brian.
One of the things we're having Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Can you tell us one of the great projects that we have going on right now?
So the project I'm most excited about are survival satchels, which are bags that we're asking community members to fill with items that are needed by survivors of domestic violence and their children when they oftentimes are forced to leave their homes without notice in the middle of a domestic incident. And when they go to a shelter, they have to leave without any of their personal belongings. And the hope is that these satchels or bags will be filled with items to help make the difficult transition they're going through a little bit easier.
The idea behind this is that with the bags, they can fill them. We've talked with the domestic violence shelters about a lot of the items they might need. Can you talk a little bit about the role the domestic violence shelters serve in helping us help victims of domestic violence?
Domestic violence happens in the home, unlike many other types of crime. So when someone's place of safety is not their home, where the home becomes a place of danger or violence, they're forced to leave their homes. And oftentimes some of the difficulties that survivors have is figuring out where to go when they're experiencing domestic violence. Without domestic violence shelters, many people are forced to remain in abusive relationships because they don't have a place to go, or a place to go that will accept them and their children when they are in the throes of an emergency. So without shelters, the likelihood that there would not only be continued domestic violence, but greater fatalities is extremely high. So shelters are an essential element in our community.
And it is one of those things where they're in the middle of the night and, they may be there, and something as basic as toothpaste or a toothbrush, are things that, having some comforts when you're in a situation like that certainly is an incredible thing. Let me ask one last question, Brenda, is we see often the difficulty that someone in domestic violence has in getting away. And can you talk a little bit about some of the reasons why you see that in the cases we handle?
First of all, the most dangerous time for a domestic violence victim is when they try to leave. The risk of being killed goes up 700 times what it would be if they decided to stay, because domestic violence is about power and control. And when someone tries to leave, the abuser's losing control. Not only that, but there's issues involving children, threats that if they try and leave, that the children will be taken away, or threats that if the victim tries to leave, that the victim will either be killed or that their family members will be harmed. Not only that, but oftentimes abusers control a victim's ability to sustain themselves financially. So without a job, it makes it much harder for people to find a way to get out on their own. And abusers often isolate victims emotionally and from their family and friends. So they're literally left with nowhere to go, and from fear and embarrassment about disclosing what's going on behind closed doors. Often I tell people that sometimes when someone decides to stay, it's for them the safest thing they can do at that point in time, because if they try and leave without a true safety plan, the risk to their safety and the safety of the ones they love can actually be increased.
Now, to getting to the project that we have, that we talked about, Survival Satchels, and I'm really excited this morning to have Terry Smack join us from Terry's Tag and Title. And this was an example of really creating a government business partnership, but that really doesn't do it justice. It's much more than that. So I want to have an opportunity. First of all, good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Brian and Carroll County.
I would love for you to just take a moment. Obviously, you and your business have been very supportive in this effort, and we are extremely thankful that you helped make this happen. But maybe you could share with us why this is something near and dear to you.
Well, most people don't know, but I'm a domestic violence survivor from close to 20 years ago. I was married. I had 3 little kids. I had a daughter from a previous marriage who was older, and I had a gentleman who was extremely controlling in many ways, financially especially. And I lived here in the county. I have no relatives that live in this state or surrounding areas, so it was very difficult for me. And when the state's attorney's office brought this project to me, it couldn't have been at a better time because, of course, it is Domestic Violence Month. People tend, like Brenda said, not to leave because they're being controlled. And with this project and having things for people to go to a center and to be able to get some free items puts less burden on them. And maybe they'll realize that there are a lot of people in this county that do care.
Absolutely. And with the shelters, what we see is they are often in need. I mean, they can't sometimes advertise. Obviously, we keep their location secret, but it's hard for them to fundraise as much. This is really important because when all of a sudden at 3 o'clock in the morning, that domestic violence victim and 3 kids come in with only the clothes on their back, they want to be in a position to not only give them the essentials they need to stay there, but also some comfort for those children. And that's really what we're trying to do here. And I know that in your situation, I'm sure that you saw the need for that.
Yes, when I left basically, yes, with the clothes on my back, the kids' clothes on their back, a couple diapers. Luckily enough, one of my children was able to get their blankie, and we ended up in a shelter. And the worst feeling was, after I finally had got them to sleep, was, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to be able to give them tomorrow? You're there to provide and protect them. Well, you're protecting them, but what are you going to be able to provide for them? And you need to kind of keep things stable. If I had just had a Matchbox car for my sons, or, a doll for my daughter, or a book to read to them, it would have taken some of the tension off of me. And I'm sure that most children realize that things aren't right, and you just can't tell them you're on vacation.
I can tell you, it's always very powerful when we do these initiatives, when someone who, obviously Terry's been incredibly successful in the business community, well known, comes out and tells people it really can happen to anyone. And the fact that she's now lending her energies to helping others is something that we're all incredibly grateful for. I just would touch a little bit, maybe Terry, you can tell us a little bit about where people could get these bags that they could fill, and how would they know what to put in it?
Well, obviously they can call me or send me an email. All of my Westminster location, all Carroll County locations have these bags so that you can pick them up. You can also get them from the Carroll County State's Attorney's Office. You can get them from the Chamber, the Tawnytown Police, the Mount Airy Business Association, and the Carroll County Public Library, the North Carroll branch only. But you can get those, it's a phone call away. And the items that you can put in is many things. You can put personal items such as feminine products. You can do hats, gloves. You can do a set of single sheets. Any kind of non-perishable food is, that they can put in the shelters that someone can grab. Any kind of paper products. Anything that you think that you could use, something like a makeup remover to kind of wipe away all that makeup off your face when you've had a really rough night.
Yeah, so I would say if anybody needs bags or wants to get more information, they can call our office at 410-386-2671, or certainly you can call Terry's Tag and Title at 410-517-3111. So again, I want to thank Brenda, Terry, thank you so much for coming in this morning and talking with us about this great project.
And thank you for making everybody aware.
Thank you. Well, Carroll County, hopefully that you will join us in honoring Domestic Violence Awareness Month and will assist us on this project. But otherwise, have a great Sunday.